Welcome to Compai's Expat channel. I'm Compai. I am Susua's voice of reason. Guys, a lot of people have been talking about the new legislations that's been passed in the Senate, and it's working its way through the federal government. And it's to regulate the real estate industry. If you know anything about my channel, I am hypercritical on two things. Real estate agents down here not being qualified, and YouTube content creators, in my opinion, not having enough experience to be selling certain products. I can tell you a product that I'm proud of, and that's my business in Casa de Compai.
There's a lot of places to rent in Susua. If you're looking for peaceful, affordable, and tranquil, look at Casa de Compai, Susua's hidden gem. When you're ready to reserve at Casa de Compai, my contact information is in the description down below.
Guys, thank you for watching my advertisement. If you want to rent in Casa de Compai, my contact information is in the description down below. I'm happy to see this legislation come through. If you were down here 16 years ago when I started buying my first property, it was a lot different than it is now. Things have gotten better over the years, and they have to get better because the amount of fraud that was taking place years ago was out of control. You really, really needed to know where you were buying, who you were buying from, and where you were buying. You had to make sure it had clear title. You got to make sure your lawyer wasn't playing both sides of that purchase agreement. He wasn't representing both the buyer and the seller. There was just so much that was going on. And it got to a point where it had to be addressed. And this legislation is not new. This was proposed by this president, during his first term. Guys, that was 6 years ago. So they've known about this problem for a very long time. Now they're really set to make the real estate industry down here professional, because it's not professional down here. Anybody can come down here, get a business card made, get a WhatsApp number, call themselves a real estate agent, go out, get a bunch of listings, and sell property, and act like they know what they're talking about. That's why I say all the time, if this YouTube content creator is pushing property and he hasn't been here longer than 4 or 5 years, there's a lot he doesn't know, especially if he's talking about where to invest all over the island, because there's so much to know here. And when you think you know, you don't know, because things change here all the time. I've been buying and selling, building, repairing, restoring properties here for 16 years. I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing business, property rentals with my own property, with my own money, by myself for 16 years. That's why I can do this video and say most of the YouTube content creators who are pushing real estate don't know. And most of the real estate agents don't know as well. So let's get into this article. I got this article from DR1. So I'll put the link in the description down below as well. So what the Dominican Republic is one of the Caribbean's most active real estate destinations. Let's talk about that, guys. Why? Because there's so much coastline here. There's so much coastline undeveloped. We're the second largest island in the Caribbean behind Cuba. There's so much space to build. There's a lot of open land here. The unlicensed broker activity. Guys, there's just so much unlicensed broker activity. Now, you got to get licensed, and what I like is to get a license and a broker's license, you got to have your residency and you got to have your cedula. You can't get one without the other, guys. And the process to get it is going to eliminate a lot of real estate agents down here. Because I'm telling you right now, why is everybody selling real estate? Because It's quick money. All it takes is for you to sell one villa and you got 10 months of living down here. So that's why they push it, and they push it hard, because the people who need money, that's where they go. And then once they get listings, then they can go into the property management side, and they can get paid commission on the rentals. So there's a whole industry on top of an industry in that. But for these people to go back to their home country, put in the application at the nearest Dominican embassy by their house, requires them to leave the island. And let me tell you something, there's a lot of broke-ass real estate agents down here who can't live the island. This is going to eliminate them, because I'm here to tell you, when this law comes in, the Dominicans are going to dime out every foreign real estate agent who does not comply with the law. It's going to happen. Unauthorized property listings. What have I seen with that? Well, the problem down here is there's no MLS system, right? People have tried it in the past and it's failed every time. Why has it failed? Because the big players in town don't want an MLS listing, because they already cornered the market. They're not here to help the little guy. They're here to maintain their market share. So they crush it, and they don't play along. So what happens is, if you're that up-and-coming real estate agent and you're not affiliated with one of the major players in town, you don't have access to their listing database. You got to create your own. So that means you got to go to everybody who's selling, get a listing, make a website, make a listing for that property for sale on your website. Then you got to do the videos. Then you got to do the Facebook posting. It's a lot of work. At the whole time, you're not making money. So your savings is being cut down. That's why the real estate agents get into such a pinch. But the problem is, when they sell a property, they don't remove the listing. So people are seeing properties that have been listed for a long period of time. The properties are sold. Or what's worse is, because there's no MLS, the seller will list it with multiple real estate agencies. And when they do a price reduction, they don't notify every real estate agency. So you're looking at one listing with this real estate agency with one price. You go to another one, it has another price. There's no consistency. That's a big problem. So what else do they say? Lack of professional standards. Holy cow. Are you kidding me? There is no standards here. It's whatever that individual wants to set. And it goes in to the lawyers they use as well. Birds of a feather flock together. If you have a nefarious real estate agent, he's going to use a lawyer that will go along with what he wants. And it all revolves around deposits and titles. So the next thing, fraud and transaction disputes. Well, guys, that means you got to get into the court system. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of lawyers doing fake contracts, taking people's deposits, selling property that the person who says they own that property don't own. There's a sub-industry down here of taking advantage of the naive gringo. It goes back to what I said before. If you're going to use a real estate agent down here, use one that's been down here for an extremely long time. The ones that are very good are the ones that have a lot of listings for a lot of years. That's who you want to use. Not this guy that's been down here for 3 years, just came down here, doing whatever he can to make money. Don't use that YouTube content creator who's just chasing the commission. The concubines for commissions are getting worse. It's just the amount of fraud is unreal. So you got to be heads up. So what are the impacts on the industry? Consumer confidence. Well, guys, let me tell you, if you've been down here at any length of time, not too many people talk positive about the real estate industry down here. They'll talk positive about individuals, but the overall real estate industry has a horrible reputation. And this goes into the changes that are actually happening in Sosua right now. We are moving away from being that tourist destination as its primary source of income to a retirement community. After COVID, especially with all the guys doing the PPP loans down here, buying property and acting like they were ballers, that's a whole nother video. But all that money post-COVID came here, inflated the properties everywhere. Sosua is no different. So there's a lot of fraud that's going in with the financing of these properties. There's no confidence when people come down here. They're really, really wary. Reduce fraud and informal practices. Guys, all the backroom deals. I know guys right now, and I shouldn't say this, but I will, who've bought a property with a mortgage, sold it to another person, and the person with the first mortgage sold it to somebody else, and he's holding the mortgage. So now you got two mortgages on two different people for the same property. And remember, title doesn't pass from person to person until that total purchase price is paid in full. And you have guys selling to other people unaware that there's a prior mortgage. Because we don't have, this still is not a mortgage-backed real estate industry. Not from the Dominican banks. Yes, guys are getting mortgages down here, but it's you really have to have somebody do the title work, and that requires a lawyer. To do property successful down here, it's all about the lawyers. Create long-term market stability. Well, every real estate market wants that, so that's no real secret. But what I really want everybody to understand is that what I think is fantastic is that finally the Dominican Republic is moving its real estate industry to a level of professionalism, accountability, and enforcement that this country needs to move forward as a premier investment destination. It's not going to be the next Turks and Caicos anytime soon, but we have room to improve. And the fact that the government is doing that makes me, as a real estate investor, super excited, super happy, and I just hope that the enforcement arm of all this is at the level it needs to move these new laws forward. Because, guys, the law hasn't been passed yet, but it went through the Senate without one dissenting vote. It's going to happen because there's not a person on this island, unless you're doing something wrong, who's against this. This is a slam dunk, and I'm surprised it took 6 years to get to this point. And I'm here to tell you there's another bill coming behind this that's going to regulate rentals. This is a step program, and I cannot wait for that next law to get passed, because there is a law out there to regulate the rentals. Got to have your license, an RNC number, fire inspections, everything I have to do at Casa de Compai. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate you watching my video. Guys, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, give me a like, and always leave those great comments. And always remember, keep personal private and private personal. Peace out.